D23 just happened where we found out a bunch of exciting new additions going to the Disney parks all around the world, and we're here to break it all down for you.
What is the biggest news for me is just how proud I am of how much you care about Disney now. Mr. I'm not a Disney person.
I will say,
I have converted this man.
These announcements are no joke. These are attractions I can get behind. We got new roller coasters, we got immersive new dark rides, crazy themed lands. Like, this is exciting stuff.
Yeah, so we're gonna kind of go park by park, and there were so many announcements, and some of them were a little bit like on the smaller side, which are still exciting. And we're gonna just focus on like the bigger ones that are like attraction related.
Yeah. So I say we start with Walt Disney World. Probably the talk of the night was Magic Kingdom. So we got two big new announcements for this. Let's just start off right off the bat. We got villains. This is what's going to Beyond Big Thunder, a villain's land. This has been talked about for ages. Like, forever, people have been wanting this.
Yeah, you can sit down. You are still a new Disney fan. As someone who has been involved in the Disney cinematic universe for my entire life, I am 28, I'll be 29 soon, and I have literally been spending time at Magic Kingdom since I was like a few months old. My parents decided that was the first thing they were going to do was take me to Disney. They're like, sure, that's what you
came
do.
out of the womb and you're like, they really should have a villain's land here.
Well, it didn't take long, okay? No, for real though. Whenever people talked about the potential of like a fifth gate and everything like that, it was always villains. Take advantage of how cool so many of the villains are. Like, they're so interesting, and a lot of them are kind of glossed over in like the storytelling aspect in like the classic movies and everything. So it's like, here's your chance to expand on these really cool, unique characters. And when I tell you I literally jumped up out of my seat, I was really excited.
Yeah, and there's a few different directions they could have taken this. They could have gone with like the campy, like old, like classic, like villains where it's like, okay, you know, you don't take them too seriously. But no, they said this is gonna encompass your nightmares. This is gonna be a dark and thorny land. Like, this is their answer to Dark Universe, going Epic Universe. Like, this is going to be kind of an intense themed area.
Yeah, at least that's what it looks
like.
like.
That's the vibe. I mean, you're looking at this concept art. I mean, this is a lot.
Yeah.
This is huge.
Yeah, it's absolutely gigantic, and like, you know, they haven't like announced anything about what the attraction is going to be. They said it'll be anchored by two major attractions, one of which definitely looks like a roller coaster to me. Like, it looks like that's what it's supposed to be.
I feel like it would be a missed opportunity to not do a roller coaster in a villain's land, because, especially, let me be more specific. I think it'd be a missed opportunity to not do a thrill coaster in a villain's land, because it just by nature lends itself to something that is a bit more extreme. And I feel like Tron, if anything, proved that you can have a fast, exciting thrill ride at Magic Kingdom, which is historically a family kids park, and it was still super well received. People really like Tron, so why not do it now on the other side of the park?
Yeah, I imagine it'll be another type of launch coaster, because that's just how they do things for the most part with like themed coasters at Disney World.
Sure.
Like, it's probably going to be Vekoma if I had to guess.
Yeah, that's pretty much a safe bet. Here's what we'll say about the concept art. There are two different points in it where you can see something that resembles a roller coaster. So you have the back left corner where it's like this spiked track that it looks like something that would just be very twisted up. Like, we almost said, like, wow, that'd be cool if it was like inversion, something like throwing you around. But then if you look in the bottom center, it looks like they have this like hole in the ground where you can see a roller coaster like doing a helix. And this looks like more traditional roller coaster track. So unclear if this means anything at all. It could mean...
It might not. It's Disney.
It could be two different roller coasters. It could be one coaster. It could be none.
Yeah. But
I wouldn't look into it too deeply.
Yeah. This is definitely the thing that like got me the most. And it was the thing that they announced at the very end. You were like, wait, that's it? It's over? And then they were like, oh, just kidding. We're going to throw this in here.
They ended with a bang.
Absolutely. I'm extremely excited. And then we're going to stick with the Magic Kingdom because that's not it. They didn't mention this as being a part of like Beyond Big Thunder. They kept implying that it was going to be like something reimagined in Frontierland. So it's probably going to replace, if I had to guess, Tom Sawyer Island, which is a crying shame because that is a really cool part of the park. It's a really unique area, but it's not majorly popular.
Yeah.
I like it as a local.
And there's speculation that they could fill in the river and then just like you put in a huge new attraction there. And so we know that this Cars mini land that's part of Frontierland is going to have two attractions. They specifically said one is going to be for the younger kids. The larger one, this is this is going to be the Radiator Springs Racers, right? Like,
but in a different environment. So
Yes.
it's not going to look like the one out in California. It's going to be distinctly different.
Which was a surprise to me. I like when this was being rumored that cars could be coming to Magic Kingdom, I was like, they're probably just going to copy and paste Radiator Springs. But they said, we are leaving Radiator Springs and we're going into like the American wilderness. You're going to climb mountains and dodge geysers.
Yeah. I'm all for having more outdoor attractions too at the parks.
I think it'll be really, really cool. And even though you have Test Track already at Epcot, which uses the same ride system, I'm personally not bothered by that because especially if you're racing alongside each other and you stay outdoors most of the time, completely different theme, I think it'll just work really, really well.
So as much as I really like the Cars area at DCA, it is a little odd for this park. I know it'll look great and everything, but I think it might stand out like a sore thumb a little bit. All the areas in the park are kind of fitting into like these specific themes of like Fantasyland, where everything like looks similar and cohesive and everything outside, and then like everything's indoor, right? Like all of the different IP are like contained within the walls of an attraction. You have Tiana's, which from the outside you can't really tell that it's Tiana, and then you have Big Thunder, which is not tied to any IP, and then this is gonna be like Cars.
Like you're gonna see a car with a face on it, like
Yeah.
immediately. I agree. It's gonna be kind of a harsh jump.
I personally would have put this at like Hollywood Studios.
Yeah, I think that would have been cool there. I think the main reason why they went with this is because I think the environment of this attraction is going to match pretty well within Frontierland.
Yeah.
Like, it's not the red rock that you have with Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. I think it's okay, though, because it still keeps with the idea of, like, yeah, like an American wilderness. And so I think that the mountains that they come up with is going to look really, really nice in the park. But the cars with the faces on it, it's going to be strange.
It's more like in-your-face IP, whereas
Yeah.
a lot of the rest of it is more
Subtle IP.
subtle. Yeah, like even like think Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. Like you wouldn't know that it's Seven Dwarfs or Snow White related
Until you are on the ride.
Yeah, it all just kind of has this cohesive vibe to it, and that's going to be like, there's Lightning McQueen, ka-chow.
We'll see how it ends up turning out. They said that work on this is going to begin early 2025, so just to be safe, I would visit Tom Sawyer Island while you still can.
It's so nice back there, and the views of Big Thunder are fab.
Yeah, and that's where you would go to watch the construction of Villains Land. For the vibe I get, Cars is going to open first, and Villains will be down the line.
Yeah, well, they didn't give any kind of timeline for Villains. At least they gave, like, not like an opening year, but a start year for Cars.
Yeah, you'll notice that trend actually with a lot of these announcements. There either wasn't a date of when this would open or even start construction, or they said it'll start next year. It seems like everything was probably greenlit around the same time, that they all took a similar duration of like prep work, and then they're all starting construction in 2025.
Oh, it's going to take so long, guys.
I know. Villains, I hate to be that guy, but like it's probably going to take like 6 years to build because Pandora took a very long time too.
Opening in 2032. And we're like...
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on. Let's talk about Hollywood Studios, because I feel like out of all of the announcements that came out of Walt Disney World in Florida, this is the one that I was not expecting.
This was very left field, and I am here for it. This sounds awesome.
Yeah, so we're getting a Monsters, Inc. themed land, which is an incredible idea, honestly, because they have like a little taste of it over at DCA, and it's okay, right? It's just a reskinned Superstar limo. Like, it's not like a full fleshed out land, but it has so much potential.
Well, and there's a really good ride from it at Tokyo Disneyland, Monsters Inc. theme, where you're like, it's like a shooting dark ride, and that is much more fleshed out. This, they just said, we're gonna do a full immersive area with like an outdoor plaza and then an indoor roller coaster.
So, this is another one that goes deep into the lore of Disney fans for like the better part of 2 decades being like, can we please get the door coaster? Please, can we get the freaking door coaster?
Yeah, the movie came out in 2001, and I think as soon as people saw that scene, it was like, that's a ride.
Well, there's sometimes when you watch a film where you're like, this lends itself to a particular ride. Right off the bat, just from looking at it. You're like, that could be something. How have you guys not done this yet? And it's so relieving to know that that idea is not dead. And in fact, it is alive and well.
Yeah, people thought it was dead for a long time. The big question, I think, with this is where is it going? Because they did release more than one piece of concept art, and it seems like they're a little contradictory of the environment surrounding it. Is it going to replace Muppets or like Star Tours? Or is it going to replace Animation Courtyard with like Star Wars Launch Bay? Some people are even saying it could replace Rock and Roller Coaster.
Okay, but I don't think that's going to happen.
I don't think that's going anywhere.
That wouldn't make sense.
I feel like Animation Courtyard is by far the best one because that area where Star Wars Launch Bay is a complete dead zone. There's nothing there. There's no people there.
Yeah, it is a dead zone, but there's pieces of information that would make you not pick either, right? So they're upgrading the old Little Mermaid show that they shut down like right around COVID. It hasn't opened since, but they even just in the days leading up to D23 released a piece of concept art for the new costuming and everything for that show. So clearly that show is happening. And that is over there in that same area.
Right.
So if they were planning to gut it in the next few years, it wouldn't make a ton of sense to invest in this whole new show. But it's Disney, so we've seen them literally build a gigantic show like Harmonious and then tear it down in a year.
Yep.
So it's not like it's never happened. So it could. And then on the flip side, in the Muppets area and everything, in the last like few years, they've done like Pizza Rizzo and like really dressed up that area and made it like nicer and everything. And they're adding all these new show scenes to Star Star Tours
yep.
that you could get. So you're like, okay, then like where is it gonna go?
Yeah, it is also a little strange. I feel like putting it in Animation Courtyard would just make way more sense because it's also real close to Toy Story, so it's, two different Pixar themes. And then if you were to replace like Star Tours and Muppets, then that also, I think, eliminates any potential possibility of expanding Galaxy's Edge.
Yeah, because that's the space you would have to use, right? So if they put something else in that spot, it's saying like Galaxy's Edge is fixed and done because there's not really anywhere to go further back. That's like where the cast parking is. And there's all these huge show buildings from Rise of the Resistance and Smuggler's Run. Like there's no room.
Yeah.
So I think it would be kind of silly to take that Muppet area and turn it into Monsters, Inc.
Yeah.
It doesn't really make sense because there's so much potential with Star Wars and they're really pushing like their newer stuff, which
Yeah, I mean, they are getting a Millennium Falcon new setting with Mandalorian and Grogu, so that'll actually be really cool for that attraction. Getting back to Monsters, Inc., they did release a little model where you can see what they have in store for the roller coaster. So it does look like it's going to be completely indoors. Specifically, it's a suspended coaster, so we're assuming it's a Vekoma suspended, so same sort of technology as like Dragonfly or Dollywood,
But way grander and way more themed.
Yeah, so just based off of this model, which, I totally understand that things can change, it looks like they're going to have some sort of dual loading setup where as soon as trains have finished boarding, you would then slide forward and then take a lift vertically up, slide forward, and then enter like this main showroom where you then have all of the doors. And there's a lot of track in this room. I really hope that not all of it is real track. I want to see next to you have Sully and Mike like riding on a door,
I
like
think they
waving at you, going whoa, whoa, and then like they split off from each other. Just stuff like that. I think there's so much potential.
Well, then here's the thing: is Disney has done like coasters that have really, really awesome theming, and then they've also done ones that just fall flat. Like Crush's coaster, for example, you have the really nice theming at the beginning, and then it's just in the dark.
Yeah.
And I really don't want to see it go like that. I really want there to be like points where like you're slowing down and you're like next to something that you're supposed to be looking at, engaging with, and I hope it's dynamic, and I hope that there's animatronics and it's not just screens. Like I want. It seems like Disney is trying to get back on track for where they seemed like they were going for a long time, and then they kind of backpedaled and they're like, hey, we can kind of put anything out and people are going to care because we're Disney. And they're like, oh, we have to drop that attitude. So we actually have to try now.
Yeah.
Especially with what they're doing over at Epic where everything is going to be practical.
Yeah.
They really need to step it up to compete with that.
Yeah. I'm still really excited for the fact that this is the first Disney roller coaster to be suspended where you're hanging below the track. I just think that's so cool. I didn't really expect them to ever build something like that. And so I'm all for it.
Yeah, I think that Tron was kind of testing the waters with like how their American clientele would react to having to put their things in a locker, because a lot of people were kind of like annoyed about it when they first heard like, oh, I can't carry my bag with me or this, that, and the other thing. And I think the fact that the lockers are right by the loading area has eased a lot of that. And I think like, okay, we can do this. We can branch out from doing roller coasters where people can put their bags at their feet.
Yep.
So now we could try these different things, and now it's just going to be shoes are going to be the biggest thing.
Let's move on then to Animal Kingdom. And this is probably, of the things at Walt Disney World, this is the one that we knew was happening. They were doing Tropical Americas to replace Dinoland USA, reskinning Dinosaur to be Indiana Jones, which I think is super exciting. They specifically said it's going to have its own original theme. It's going to be a preserved Mayan temple where Indy is going looking for a mythical creature. So that's how they tie it back into animals. And I feel like this is going to be awesome. I like this. It's going to be different from Disneyland's and Tokyo's.
Yeah, so here's the thing, is that both of the attractions there are kind of like loosely, they like, how can we like attach this to being related to animals?
Yes, it is. It's a little loose, but it's still like thematically, it will look and tie in, I think, pretty well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have never been a fan of Dinoland USA. I appreciate it a bit more now when I had my cast member friends kind of explain the lore behind it. But, like, Dinoland made me cry when I was a kid. Like, I got really upset. I was like, oh my gosh, like, how could Disney build something that looks like this? Like, sounds like such a little brat, but I was used to, like, that was, like, one of the last areas of Disney that I saw. Everything else was so beautiful and grand, and then I just see, like, Dino-Rama, and I'm like, what is this? I'm like, that's what it looks like at our parks back home, not Disney World. So
yeah.
I'm okay with it going. I really am. But Dinosaur is a favorite attraction of mine. I love it, love it, love it. But since the ride system is what makes me love it more than anything, I'm fine with the reskin.
Yes, and I'm excited to actually see physical sets instead of just staring at blank darkness for 2.5 minutes.
It adds suspense.
Yes, but this is going to be so much better because Indy in California is awesome.
Yeah, I know. But it's going to be different. It's not going to be a clone.
I know.
I think that was the concern for a lot of people, was that they were just going to copy-paste, because they've done that a lot.
They have. But this is, I don't think anything that was announced at D23 is a clone.
No.
Like, all of it is original, which is refreshing to see. But land is set to open in 2027. Construction is beginning this fall. Dinosaur is probably closing early next year. They're trying to keep that open as long as they can. So fully expect everything else to kind of shut down first. I'm excited to see like things going vertical on that site, especially since Primeval Whirl has been sitting vacant forever. Like, they ripped that thing out ages ago. So I imagine that's probably where they're going to be starting first to put things up.
So the other major like e-ticket attraction that's going to be coming to that area is going to be Encanto, which is really, really fun. It takes place in Colombia, so it makes sense with the theme. This one is a bit of a question mark because based on the concept art, it's very vague what kind of ride system we're working with here.
Yep.
But I think logically what makes the most sense would be a trackless ride, because the storyline is that you are on a piece of furniture in the casita and it is just moving wildly throughout the house. So if you're going to do that, you're going to need a trackless ride vehicle.
I feel like it gives big Mystic Manor vibes in Hong Kong or Symbolica Efteling.
Yes.
It just makes sense. But when you look at the rendering, it does kind of look like a boat.
I don't think it's going to be a boat, though. I don't. And it makes sense for them to put in a trackless ride there over a boat, because they do have Navi River Journey, which is a fantastic boat ride.
Yep.
They definitely could do with something different.
I agree. I think also if there's any chance of ever putting in a Lion King attraction, which I think has been loosely talked about for Animal Kingdom, that would be a boat, because that is what is going to Paris. Let's talk about Walt Disney Studios, aka Disney Adventure World. We're getting a Lion King ride. And it looks awesome.
Yeah, so this is like the year of going back to classics that didn't get the love that they deserved in the parks. So Lion King right now, the main attraction that there is related to one of, if not the most beloved Disney movie of all time, is the Festival of the Lion King, which is amazing, fantastic. But I think that Simba and his squad deserved a ride.
Yes, they really do. And they specifically said this is going to be themed to the animated classic. If I had to make a prediction, I think that the exterior is going to look like the live action, but then when you're on the ride is going to be like the animated. That is my guess.
Yes.
I feel like that would just make sense. They actually had a model of this attraction, the full land, at D23, so you can actually see what it looks like. So that tells us that this is very far along in development, which just makes sense, because they're really trying to beef up that park. They're not giving crap to the main Disneyland park. They're like, oh, new show. It's like, oh, never mind the fact that they haven't gotten a new ride in 30 years. I know that this park needs it more, but they're like, all right, we're already opening up Frozen in 2026. That was announced.
Surprised.
It's got
thought it would be like, thought it was gonna be next year.
I know. It's centered around this big lake, and so with that new land, they're also adding a nighttime show. and they clearly want to start putting stuff around this. Like,
Well,
so
there's plenty of space.
yeah, so that way it's not just Frozen. So the parcel of land directly to the left of Frozen is where Lion King is going, and then presumably, whenever they're done with that, they'll announce something for the right side.
Galaxy's Edge, right? Wasn't that?
That
gonna
was
happen?
announced, and it's not going to happen.
So, before we go any further, I am going to say that Disney has a history of announcing very exciting things and then sometimes just like going, oh, never mind, but we're just not going to mention it ever again and hope everybody forgets. And we don't. We don't forget. So, if they try to do that this time, I don't think they're going to, because Josh D'Amaro was very like, everything that we're talking about is in production in one way or another.
Like, it will happen. He said many things are going to be starting construction very, very soon.
Very soon, as in 2 years from now.
Yeah, but I think this is all because the whole blue sky concepts were not super well received at the past D23s, and so people were like, we just want to see things that are physically tangible, that we can guarantee are happening. And that's what all of this supposedly is, which is fantastic.
Well, there's very little coming in 2025, which is going to be the year of Epic Universe. So I think it's not the best that they don't have anything coming sooner.
I agree. It's like, oh, you're opening up a new theme park? We got upgraded test track.
Which they
for
give
the third time.
They give no details about that.
Yeah.
Nothing.
So that's what is going to the Disneyland Paris resort. Let's hop over to the Asia parks, and then we'll end things out with California.
But not Tokyo, because they didn't even really mention that.
Yeah, they're getting literally a huge new Space Mountain coaster, and we just completely ignored that. So
Maybe they forgot.
yeah, but even though some of these parks might be getting like something that's just like real small, factually the only Disney park that is literally getting nothing is Disney Sea. In Tokyo Disney is like, we're getting a new nighttime show, but Fantasy Springs just opened up at Disney Sea, so I guess they're like, that's good enough
You
for us.
had your turn.
We don't need anything now.
No, but one park that was discussed and kind of flew under the radar, like it was like briefly mentioned in passing and then we just moved on, but I don't think we should have moved on. I think this is kind of a big deal. So Hong Kong Disneyland announced something that, based on the concept art, looks like Tower of Terror, but Spider-Man.
Yeah, this is cool. They announced a couple new Marvel attractions, and this is one that I would say was getting the least amount of talk, and it's probably because they never actually said what it is.
They're like, yeah, we're gonna get this thing in Hong Kong and then moving on.
Yeah, literally. And so when you look at the ride vehicle, everyone is seated like Tower of Terror. There is a lap bar, not a seat belt, so that's a little different. But
everyone's hands are up in the air, so it's clearly not just like a dark ride.
Well, and Spider-Man is like pulling them up, you know, after they were probably let go from something. It just makes sense to be a Tower of Terror, and there is not a Tower of Terror in either of the China parks. There's only 4 Tower of Terrors worldwide, and of course it is wildly successful. It is of course a thrill attraction, which I think would be well received at the Hong Kong park. And they also have a couple other Marvel rides already there. They have the Iron Man experience, and they have the Ant-Man and the Wasp ride, and so this is supposedly going where the Autopia area is, so now you have like your own little Avengers campus.
Love it. Perfect. And now we're gonna move on to Shanghai, because this one has got me all kinds of hype. We're gonna stick with Spider-Man, but we're gonna go with a thrill coaster, and it looks like Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind style ride vehicles.
Yeah. We assume so. That's at least how it looks.
Oh, it looks like it. It probably is.
Well, we don't know. That's the thing. I mean, it's safe to assume Vekoma, right? But there wasn't really much details given other than it is a thrill coaster. I believe the layout was leaked online, that someone found the plans for it, so you can see that like it clearly is going to have like some sort of backward section where, you know, you can incorporate like a show scene and whatnot. But we don't know how the ride vehicles are going to move, if they move at all. I really hope that's what's coming. It is going in an area of Shanghai Disney that is not home to any other Marvel attraction. This would be the only Marvel ride there, which could probably gonna be a little weird. Maybe it's the first of a few?
I mean, think about DCA. I mean,
Yep.
Tower of Terror was the only Marvel attraction. It was just all by itself.
For a while. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, not anymore, but maybe they're going with the same approach of like, let's put in something major and then build around it later.
Yeah, exactly. And they did just open up Zootopia, so they already just got like a big new land. And funny enough, this new attraction would actually be going in a similar area of the park nearby Zootopia. So, cool stuff. Let's talk about DCA, because
they're the spoiled child.
they got 3 big new announcements.
Yeah, so let's start with one that was already essentially announced, the Avengers e-ticket ride.
Yeah, so we're literally seeing Avengers Campus doubling in size. They're adding 2 new rides, and we have names for them. It is Avengers Infinity Defense and Stark Flight Lab. The second one was completely unexpected. Had no idea that was happening. But Avengers Infinity Defense is our big, massive dark ride that they're doing. We actually got to see what the ride vehicle looks like, and it looks like The Amazing Adventures of Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm, which is fine, because I imagine they're going to bring that into, like, the new age, right? I'm hoping it's not exclusively screen-based.
I think it'll be both screen and practical, but I feel like for what they're doing, they have to use screens.
Yeah, they do. They absolutely do. But I hope that there's some parts that are practical.
Yeah, so they specifically say that the Avengers are going up against King Thanos, and they're using the world jumping technology to take you to Asgard, Wakanda, and New York. And the other fun tidbit they announced is that Robert Downey Jr. is reprising his role as Iron Man.
Yay!
For both attractions here in Avengers Campus. So I would not be surprised if we see the Iron Man animatronic from Paris brought over to Avengers Campus here in California.
Big year for Rob, eh?
Yeah, Mr. Doctor Doom himself. Yeah. So weird. I'm still wrapping my head around that one.
So the other ride is Kuka Arms. So you literally are sitting down and you get picked up by a Kuka arm, and it does like different sequences, and it's meant to be like Tony Stark is always messing around with technology, and he's like, oh, you can come into my lab and get thrown around on a Kuka arm. I don't know if it'll be like the one that we did in Qatar, but I hated that so much, so I hope it's a little more gentle.
It's very odd to see this technology brought over to a Disney park. They say that this is something you're going to want to ride more than once because your flight might be different depending on which superhero you're paired with. I think it's also really cool that it's going to have like a continuously moving platform, and then the arm will literally like pick you up. I think that's brilliant, and I think it's going to be really weird also seeing like 20 arms going at once.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be really freaky.
It's gonna be wild.
So then let's talk about Coco. All along we kind of thought the Coco attraction was gonna be at the Mexico Pavilion at Epcot, but instead they're like, oh, actually we're gonna put it at DCA.
Yeah.
Interesting. Trying to imagine where that might go.
I would hope by Pixar Pier because it is a Pixar branded attraction. The land there is a little tight, so maybe this is one of our Disneyland Forward expansions that we see. I don't know.
I feel like we should talk about the big one, which again was kind of already talked about, like we kind of already knew, and it was confirmed to some extent by Disney executives, but now it's like very concrete that we're getting a World of Avatar.
Yes, and it's going to Disney's California Adventure. No timetable or location was specified, but we're assuming that it's going in the Hollywood Studios section of the park, which would be a little weird in my opinion, that you'd be like on Hollywood Boulevard and you just like hang a left and then it's like, oh, you're in now Pandora. And that's just like a very drastic jump, but we'll see.
But how long is that going to last for, though? Like, if I had to take a guess, it seems like they're really trying to redo this whole park.
Yes.
So I think that there's a very good chance that eventually that whole theme is just going to be...
Well, it's not even California Adventure at this point anyways. Like, I feel like rebranding this park is inevitable, but I think that would probably mean it's a good idea to get your last rides in on the Monsters, Inc. ride while you still can. I would also fully anticipate some of the construction to go into the bus loop area. So they probably have to really like rework that section to make room for this land. But it is pretty impressive looking. It is a completely new part of this world. Like it is not the same as the Valley of Mora at Animal Kingdom.
So this land is going to be related to The Way of Water and Avatar 3, which is coming out in 2025. So my guess is that that's probably when they're going to start breaking ground, because I imagine they want to get it out before the fourth movie, which is in 2029.
Unlike the land in Florida, we're only getting one attraction in this land. It is going to be a boat ride. It's going to use the same technology as the Pirates Battle for Sunken Treasure in Shanghai, which looks just like amazing the way that they're showing off this concept art. It looks like you're gonna have like all these crazy animatronics surrounding you at different scenes. It'll be indoors and outdoors. The landscape just looks beautiful. This is gonna be an incredible land.
Yeah, and I really like that they're going back to like whimsical amounts of scale. As much as Avengers is fun, it's very rooted in real life. I like being taken out of the real world. And that's what, like, pretty much everything that's been announced, like Villain's Kingdom, like, all of that is going to look very otherworldly.
Yeah, well, and everyone was just so impressed with the floating mountains. I'm glad that they're doing something that's going to be equally as awe-inspiring, but this time it is centered around that big circular structure that you have. You see it absolutely in the way of water. It just looks insane. So I think that's going to be a really, really impressive centerpiece.
And that'll do it for DCA, and none for you, Disneyland.
Yeah, they're getting an animatronic and that's it.
But it's not just any animatronic. They're getting Walt Disney. Like, that is a really, really cool thing. Because that's like an emotional thing to see.
It is, yeah.
Like, what would look like a real life version of someone that, you know, passed away a long time ago. It's like, whoa.
Yeah, it will be super cool, but, you know, they're not getting any new rides or anything. So,
yeah.
I would say overall this is a wildly impressive year for D23. These announcements are really, really cool. It's not just like one or two big hits. It's like pretty much all of them are going to be awesome.
Absolutely. It was a little odd that they didn't discuss Disneyland Forward, like, at all.
Yeah.
I mean, it was implied, obviously, like, through the DCA announcements that they are going to have a bit more space. I'm like, they never actually said the phrase, and it's kind of been their thing for a while. So, I don't know. I guess we'll see if they talk about it again soon.
Yeah, for sure. And so I think it'll be really interesting to see the timetable as these all really start construction, when they start opening up. I wonder how many of them will open up around the same time. I'm also really curious how this will then evolve into the next D23. What sort of follow-up announcements we get from it. Is this
a re-announcement?
Yeah, like, okay, we heard about the Avengers Dark Ride ages ago, and then we never heard anything in between. Like, how many of these are we not going to hear anything about for the next 2 years?
Well, most of them, they said, are breaking ground in, like, 2026.
Or some next year, yeah.
Yeah, most of them, though, are 26, and that'll be when the next D23 is, so we'll see.
So let us know down in the comments below, what do you think of the big announcements from D23? What are you most looking forward to? And hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. And of course, make sure to stay tuned for more here at Coaster Studios. And we'll see you next time.